Thank you all for joining. We have Dr. Kevin Butterfield here with me, Seth Kalin with Hippocampus Labs, and we are talking about the athlete's hidden advantage. So there's no secret there. We're going to be talking about brain mapping, peak performance, and EEG neurofeedback. So there's a lot of power that's within your hands with this, and I will let Dr. Butterfield get started so we can kind of get moving here right at the top of the hour. If you have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section and or just put it right into chat so that way we can answer your questions directly. We may get to it at the end, or we'll try to keep an eye on it and answer those questions as we're going if time permits. So without further ado, Dr. Butterfield.
Without further ado,
All right.
yeah, so this we're going to talk a lot about the brain mapping, like Seth said, and the EEG neurofeedback and brain mapping. If you're already doing this in your practice, that's awesome. Maybe we can help you expand a little bit on it. If you're not doing it in your practice and you want to, you'll find out why this is probably a good idea to do that. Because we all, in our practices, we see athletes from youth to middle school, high school, college, and some of us see the pros. So the key thing that all those people do is to do the physical performance stuff, and they leave the brain out of it, which it should be the other way around. But anyway, okay, you can click down the next slide. All right, so again, you guys can read this. We're not giving you medical advice or diagnosing anything or any of your conditions. You know, you should seek all that information out from a licensed medical professional for any health concerns. Okay, this is just a disclaimer.
And just one more disclaimer on that. We have some professional athletes that we'll be showing during this presentation and a couple of quotes that you'll see. They are promoting and referring to neurofeedback as the benefit and the major changes that it's had in their lives. But we have not contacted them or gotten approval from them for Hippocampus Labs. But in neurofeedback in general, they are major proponents in the industry and in the professional sports world. So just wanted to make a note of that.
Excellent. All right, the leadership team. I'm Dr. Butterfield. I've been a chiropractor for a long time. I've been doing neurofeedback for 26 years now. And that's all I do is the neurofeedback. I do anything from kids with ADD, kids in the spectrum, depression, anxiety, all the way. It's now more, I do some peak performance brain training for professional athletes, IndyCar drivers, NASCAR drivers, and NFL players. Um, that's what I do, and I'm trying to show or help other practitioners across the country to employ this in their office because it's such a valuable asset, a valuable tool in your toolbox. And Seth, you can go ahead and do you and Dan.
Sure. Myself, nutritional therapy practitioner, board certified in holistic nutrition. I've worked with Dr. Butterfield since back in 2016 when I met him when I was working as a manufacturer rep for a functional medicine supplement company. And there's a major correlation, direct correlation, bidirectional relationship between the brain and the metabolic system, obviously. So I've worked a lot with the metabolic system as far as supplementation, diet changes, lifestyle influences to impact the brain health. But never before have I been had enough power to be able to make changes directly to the brain with a technology like this. So now with combining them, we're able to actually have a much faster impacts on individuals' lives and practices as well because they're able to combine those things. Because many healthcare practitioners and the ones that we're working with are in the functional medicine or holistic space, and they are applying those methodologies already to support the natural function of the body. And now with neurofeedback, we're actually directly influencing the brain energy and the brain waves. So that way the brain is in providing more brain energy to give more motivation, more clarity, more focus to individuals so they can actually follow through with lifestyle recommendations for your patients. When they go home, they have that energy, that mindset, that clarity to make a decision that's better for them rather than grabbing a glass of wine. If that's the de-stressor of the day. So that's my experience. I've been doing that for quite a while. I was with that company for over 12 years. Now I've got a holistic, health and wellness space that I have 27 employees, over 7,000 square feet that I have with, focusing on the real world impact of self-care and support for individuals in my community. And neurofeedback is a big part of that. We've just been implementing that and getting some great successes. Dan Court was one of my largest accounts when I was with that supplement company. And he was not only an amazing practitioner, an amazing human being, to helping as many people as he could at scale. He had multiple successes prior to him actually getting into the nutritional holistic realm of multiple businesses that he was able to build from scratch and sell to multi-billion dollar companies. And the reason that's relevant and I bring that up is because our purpose and our mission is to be able to take neurofeedback and make it, a well-known modality in healthcare practices and support you to be able to implement this and from a successful business manner so you can get the best results that you can with your practices. So we're combining all the best of both worlds, the best of neurofeedback with Dr. Butterfield and in his success in clinical practice and business as well. Myself with the holistic perspective of how to support the metabolic system, and Dan with bringing that additional layer of business support and clinical support, and our team, as far as the leadership team and all of our team that we have in the background, are really here to support you to be able to scale this in your office to whatever degree that you would like to.
Okay,
Okay.
now here we go. Why the brain-based training, right? Like I said, a lot of the athletes out there and the top tier athletes, they work on their body so much, which is good. They got the best, you know, uh, oxygen capacity in their lungs to last longer. They got everything they can go going for them from the neck down. But they, a lot of some athletes or a lot of athletes probably use neurofeedback as well. I mean, it's the mental fatigue accumulates faster than muscular fatigue. Obviously, you're going to get burnout in your brain. If you're going to lose your focus, you're going to get stray in your thought process, which will slow you down. But if you focus on the brain while you do the body, that's the comprehensive approach that you should do. Again, the cost of not doing it is, whether you finish on the podium or your team wins or doesn't win. I mean, if all the brains are working, firing the best they could, that's an unstoppable force. So to add in the neurofeedback or the neurological precision training, that's the missing piece that most of these teams don't have and should have. Okay, yeah, the brain is your performance engine. That controls everything else in your whole body. So you have to have the proper firing of the signals. The brainwaves got to be in a certain range, which is normal, for them to be able to communicate in the brain better, to send all that information down to your body. It increases your reaction speed, your attention and focus, obviously, your emotional stability, so you don't have these meltdowns, and it helps you recover quicker because you don't burn yourself up or burn your muscles up or okay.
So we've all heard the phrase before, his or her head's not in a game, they were making mistakes. And, we've seen it on the big screen. You've probably seen it in youth sports that there is, when somebody's making mistakes and it's having a major impact and they're just, not in the right mindset, their performance breakdowns. And so they're not physically not in the game, but they're mentally not in the game, which is affecting their physical performance. So when your brain's under a competitive stress, it's dysregulated and it's not able to respond appropriately. It's misfiring. So that's a major bottleneck for, a lot of these youth athletes and professional athletes to actually being at their peak performance. So cognitive drift, that's one of those things where when there's a stressor that they're receiving or they're having in the game and they are not able to react as quickly as they should because their just brain is not trained in order to be able to respond appropriately, or they've had a certain amount of stress that they've been under, that they've been not able to adapt or recover, so they're fatigued. They're not able to respond, so they're having some neural inefficiency. Their brain is consuming more power and it produces more, to take more power than it actually is producing. So that's a major, inefficiency for individuals when they're trying to be at their top of their game. And a lot of that also has a correlation, again, like I talked about before, with the metabolic system. We have to support the lifestyle. We have to support the fuel for the brain so that way you can respond appropriately. But if the brain waves are out of sync, or they're whether it's been through damage of concussion or through stress or through anxiety and other things, maybe it's a chemical nature of things that they're eating poorly. That inefficiency is going to impact their brain waves, which is going to take them out of the game. Their head's not going to be where it should be to be able to firing at all cylinders. And when it's dysregulated, when it's not performing at its best, there are times where that's increasing injury risk. Whether it's footwork, in the way that the athlete is moving around, its opponent, it's not placing their feet where it's supposed to be. Maybe that's an ankle injury, or maybe it's a racer that has a split-second decision that they have to make, and that is the difference between getting into a crash or hitting the wall or not. So it's a major impact if that brain's not firing on all cylinders. So you got to get the head in the game, and that's where neurofeedback actually complements and helps people be able to be at their most heightened capability and most focused and relaxed. So it's not just where they're just going to be on steady alert. They're also able to become relaxed and be able to have emotional regulation when it's appropriate, for the different sports. And we'll talk
Yeah,
about
I
that
would
more.
I would jump in and say the classic example of that one is Simone Biles. Remember in the Olympics, she had the twisties or whatever. She couldn't jump. Her brain wasn't in it. So
Yep.
she just withdrew from the Olympics because she didn't want to hurt herself because her brain wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's the prime example of that. Okay.
Yeah. Very good point. So there's more than one way you can utilize neurofeedback to impact and help with athletes. So one is obviously concussion recovery that we're talking about now, and athlete wellness. The neurofeedback is a powerful tool where that individual, that had a concussion, whether it was mild, or it was severe, there's going to be an inflammatory process that the brain has to go through, a healing process that they have to go through. But after they go through that, sometimes, there's people are still feeling, they're having headaches on a regular basis. They're not able to sleep. Grades can be slipping. The mood of the individual can be changed quite a bit after a concussion, and that's after they've been released to play and say, you're recovered from your concussion, you're able to go back in the game, but they're still having these symptoms. So something is still not right. And, a lot of players, both in youth sports, that, it really just goes under the radar. And in professional sports, they don't have an answer. And neurofeedback can be one of those things that provides an answer. And there are some, the high level athletes that have gone through this, and it's like night and day, and they've got quotes and case studies out there and research out there that we'll share with you to show, the amount of impact that with this neurofeedback can have for concussion recovery and just improving the athlete wellness overall for symptom relief. And we say at the bottom of the slide there, especially impactful for youth athletes. And one of the reasons that is because, we think about and we see all these things and studies have been done with professional athletes, but really it's the youth athletes that, we want to support everyone. But youth athletes go under the radar, and most of them, they never have access to neurofeedback because they don't have a practitioner that's local to them, that's well versed in this, that can help them with this type of support. Professional athletes, they can afford anything, but they don't have that local practitioner that's around them that can educate the parents and educate the teams to help them with this. And just as, I've noticed that I'm in my, mid 40s, I've noticed that, recovery time from a physical activity and exercise takes a little bit longer. Unfortunately, I don't like to admit that, but it's the same thing with the brain. For the brain, as you age, it does take longer to recover from things when you become fatigued or you have a lack of sleep. You need more time to recover. For kids, you've heard those types of things where they bounce back really quickly. So for youth athletes that have issues that they've had, problems, whether it be concussion or other things, with neurofeedback, they can bounce back very quickly and have a major impact in a short period of time.
Yeah, I've had a lot of students that they'll go to college to play sports, got concussions, the grades dropped, they dropped out of school. I mean, I can I had a lot of cases like that. And the way that, concussion syndrome is a real thing, where the concussion symptoms last a long time. It's because the medical approach is let's do an MRI or CAT scan, which is a golden standard, and let's look at the slices of the brain. That's all they look for. If it's not a fractured skull or a bleeder, they'll come back as normal. Neurofeedback and the brain mapping takes electronic slices of your brain and we can see where the brain is misfiring. That's why we can go ahead and address the concussion, quote, scrub it out so it doesn't be a problem down the future. That's the reason why neurofeedback is powerful that way.
Yeah, great point. Um, So for performance optimization and future of training, we see this, with the trend of professional and high-level athletes adopting this and entire teams across the world adopting this as using this to elevate their team's performance, the entire team, to help make sure that they're more focused, they have more emotional control, reaction speed, which they're all measuring. And, it is the gym for the brain. You're working out the brain to make it stronger, more adaptable, more resilient, creating more neuroplasticity so that they'll learn new techniques and new processes faster, handle things at a greater level of pressure. So, performance optimization, and the amount of money that's being spent now in youth sports for, trying to get their athlete, college scholarship, or even NIL money now that most of you are aware of. The just having that one thing that puts them above all the others and giving them a mental edge is going to give them the best opportunity to be able to, achieve their own personal best, and be able to have opportunities to be able to excel further than their classmates or other schools that are not utilizing this, or other teams that are not utilizing this. So this is a major thing that can actually elevate an entire team if you're working with an entire team. But you can definitely want to have those individuals that you're helping move to the next level. And it aligns with modern science. This day and age, obviously, we're all aware of. We want more data. The more data we have, then the more powerful you are as a practitioner, and as a sports coach or an organization. If you have data that you can make meaningful decisions with, and that's where Hippocampus Labs comes in. The data that we get from utilizing QEEG brain mapping, which Dr. Kevin's going to get into, and neurofeedback, we have the opportunity to make major changes in these youth athletes and any semi-pro college athletes, and professionals alike, with science-driven sports innovation. Dr.
Okay, so
Kevin?
here's the what we do as far as the brain map. I mean, we put a cap on your head, and we actually, with all the data from the 19th centuries, we get a 3D model of your brain with 6,800 voxels, which is a volumetric electrical data box. And we compare that box of information with somebody who's their age and their gender and their left or right-handedness. So we can see what a normal brain looks like. And we know what brain we're looking at if they're struggling in either the frequencies or the networks. We know where the struggle is and we can target that area. It's so much information. We get like 280 pages of reports, but it identifies where the brain struggles and it identifies where the brain can improve on the field and off the field. Okay. Yeah, so each brainwave tells a specific performance story. Like the neurofeedback providers, like we, Hippocampus Lab, read every page of that report. And it's kind of like a coach reading a game film, identifying patterns and predict and explain performance outcomes. We can address everything as far as the beta frequency. If it's too high, that leads to performance anxiety. If you got the theta frequency bursting in there, you get lapses in focus and cognitive fatigue. Alpha suppression, over focused and rigid. You need alpha frequency actually higher than the normal brain should be, to clear out all the static in the brain and focus better. And the asymmetries are also important. You can catch those on the brain map. If the left or right imbalances, that means your brain's not firing on all cylinders correctly. It means the timing's off. And we can see all that with QEEG brain map. You can't see that with MRI or CAT scan or anything else like that. And you can't see it if you just look at somebody to know if they're got their game going, or their game is on. Okay, what EEG neurofeedback actually does, this isn't the brain map part. The brain map tells us where to go, it targets the areas of the brain that need work. So the neurofeedback, it actually is the sound that you hear when you're putting the sensors on the head and the headphones on. We train your brain to get in its optimal performance state and level. And again, we identify it through the brain map. You do the brain training sessions to get them either before an event, before a sporting event or a youth event. We get the brain firing on all cylinders. Yeah, elite athletes don't just train harder, they think more efficiently. So, neuroimaging shows us who the high performers are. They use less energy in their brain. It learns to do more with less. The phenomenon is called cortical efficiency. It's trainable with neurofeedback, and neurofeedback promotes faster neural activation. And there's a lot of studies out there that show that. Um, okay, we're ready for the next one.
So just on that note, just everyone here, and if you're listening to a recording, and if you joined late, we are going to provide a document that actually has an outline 77 different research studies that have all been done on athletes and the effects. So you'll have that PubMed articles that you can go through and scour and read into that the amount of data that's available just specifically with athletes and athletes from different sports that will give you a lot of confidence to be able to work with your patients and work with, sports teams that are in your local area, or, in the, what do they call it? The weekend warriors that just want to, just push themselves to the next level. This neurofeedback can really have a big impact, and we have the research behind it. So this Tobias from the Sixers. This is Tobias Harris. I'm a Sixers fan. So I'm from the Philly area, so we had to find a Sixers player to put on here. But a quote from him is, "I've got to be able to function the next day at the top level," and he was referring to, the 82 game season schedule, and the rigorous nature of them having to travel so much. Sleep and recovery is, obviously essential. So he used neurofeedback, and it really just helped him, maintain that peak performance that he needed to be able to sleep better, to recover, and to really have the impact that he was when he was as a professional player. So there's no one size fits all. Brain protocols that we work with Hippocampus Labs, like Dr. Kevin mentioned, is like we go over 280 pages of reports and we look at what is the specific thing that we're going to do with that individual player. But outside of that, so we're looking at if there's damage, if there's hyper or there's hypo activity from a brainwave perspective. But if we want to get into a specific protocol, we have the ability to also focus in on what's been researched to show of like precision sports. So alpha and SMR regulation is as far as like central brain to help with composure, rhythm, motor consistency under high stakes. If we want somebody, if they're in a type of sport that they have to be more explosive and reactive, that sensor motor beta modulation for faster reaction, like a race car driver, that's we can focus on to make sure that they are able to be at the highest level possible. Endurance training for the individuals that going to have to sustain for long terms, and they have to have that mental, resilience to have that output over long durations. We can work with midline theta training to autonomic regulation. For combat sports, if we want, some combat sports in MMA, I'm sure some of you may have seen, they get explosive. They may overreact, and that's kind of like the showbiz part of it. But essentially, a lot of them have they do that on purpose because of, they're getting their fans engaged, but they do have to have that emotional regulation to be able to keep themselves composed under extreme stress when they're in combat sports like MMA. So the human dimension, this is something that, it's like a psychosocial skills. It's beyond brain waves. We're building better competitors. The four areas that you see here, this is neurofeedback's not just sharpening reflexes. It helps to reshape the psychological scaffolding of a high performer. So, um, the four things I would like to say, working with another company with some of the most elite, and I've been so blessed to work with, some of the most elite talent identification professionals in the world. And, they're identifying these four things as essential, they critical to be in a professional athlete. And if they don't have all these four things that they're working on and at their highest level, then they may become a professional athlete because their physical skill, but it's gonna be like they're gonna stay at the top for a cup of coffee, and they fizzle out. They've got to have all of these things at the highest level to be able to become a professional athlete and maintain that professional, performance. So neurofeedback helps support individuals with neuroplasticity and how it supports that to help an individual become more coachable. If you're working with a youth athlete as you're doing neurofeedback, that's going to increase their ability to actually be more coachable because they're able to learn faster. Failure recovery, they're able to actually have better stress resilience, the stress response, so they can actually overcome losses or overcome in a game when they've, may have lost, a couple times to an opponent and they need to recover faster and they got to get their head back in the game. Neurofeedback's going to help them have that resilience to be able to come back and be able to, perform at their elite level and just remove that past performance, from their mind. So they got to have that leadership, got to have that focus, got to have that sustainable competitiveness. And neurofeedback can help provide that to athletes to be at their highest level. And you train the brain in the lab as an athlete who shows up in the locker room, they're in the huddle, they're in a comeback. They're individuals. We're not just obviously dealing with a statistic here. We're dealing with a human being, and we're able to help them really be at their best. So giving them an edge is really powerful that you can all have. So we're providing that support as practitioners, as Hippocampus Labs. We're focusing on the highest level protocols that we can provide you that will give you the best results. So you don't have to go back to school. You don't have to be questioning, is this the right direction to be able to support this athlete? I really want to make sure they get the results, and we really, genuinely, that's what we're doing is we understand who we're dealing with. We're dealing with humans on the other end. We want to make sure that they get the best results possible.
Well,
So
the benefits,
benefits,
yeah, go
yes.
ahead, go ahead.
No, that's so yeah, benefits for athletes. We've talked about this a little bit. It just amplifies it. Sharper execution under pressure, consistent focus and rhythm, shorter recovery windows, lower injury risk. All of like we are with neurofeedback, you're able to take the individual and take them to the next level. They're able to work on their physical performance. You're able to, as a practitioner, working on the mental performance and helping them out, be the best athlete they can be. Is this yours, Dr. Kevin?
That's yours. It's yours.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
So, benefits for coaches and medical teams. Um, so we're not just providing you a neurofeedback as a tool. We're providing you that QEEG, that brain map that helps you provide the data point that can give you more perspective as if there's a coach, as a clinician practitioner, to make clinical decisions, to make game day decisions, to make training development plan decisions. So we replace that guesswork with objective neurological data, so that way we can actually show you results along the way. So you get that pre-readiness, pre-competition readiness scan. We can do preseason, mid-season. At the end of the season, you could do before a big game. We can kind of see where the readiness state is. Dr. Kevin has worked with race teams across the country, and doing weekend neurofeedback on them to get ready for race day. So we're able to work with, from that short window to actually make an impact on someone, not just, a full protocol that's going to be over a 12 to 15 week period of time. We can actually have an impact on an individual that's going, getting ready for game day. So we can provide that real-time recovery assessment, and it integrates well with if you have a strength and conditioning coach and workflow, we're able to support you with that, with integrating different protocols to help with that as well. So shift in practice as far as integrating neurofeedback. So it's a new assessment, but it provides you that support to be more data driven. We have a clinical grade QEEG. It's an objective snapshot to provide that cognitive and autonomic readiness. And it only takes 10 minutes to actually do it. Once you get the cap on. To do a brain map, it doesn't, take long at all. So we're changing it from, if, whether it's after concussion or after training, just saying, how do you feel? We're able to do a brain map and say, this is actually what your brain's showing us, and how does that actually correlate with how you're feeling? So it gives you that objective tool.
Yeah, the field integration in elite and youth sports. Again, it's perfect for your practice itself. It's portable. You can take it to the events. You can take it to some games. You can do whatever. From warm up before the game, after the game. If they get a concussion, you can check to see if there's any signatures of a concussion on the brain map, and you can go ahead and address that at the office. Go ahead, Seth. You got this one.
So the neurofeedback advantage, I mean, we've kind of talked about this, but we're really focusing on trying to mitigate that long-term effect when we're talking about youth sports and their concussions, that long-term effect that it can have. If we don't have a individual that like a player, Dr. Kevin normally goes into a case study. I'll just review it briefly of a soccer player that was 10 years old, had a concussion, and was a perfect student basically before that. After the concussion, for over a year, had all sorts of mood issues, anxiety issues, overreaction issues, grades completely dropped and was failing. And after a year, they came and saw Dr. Kevin, and within 30 sessions, he was completely back to normal of the 10-year-old that his parents had before. So if they didn't find Dr. Kevin, and after all the medications that they tried, they went to chiropractors, they went to others to try to help fixing, and they got the musculoskeletal fix, but were not able to get the brain back in tune. Without finding a neurofeedback practitioner, that child may have went on for years with poor grades, mood issues, and trouble in school, and it could have changed the entire trajectory of that individual. So we really, back to the human dimension, these are individuals, they are humans that we're making an impact on. And we really want to have as many of these placed around the country so we can have a greater impact on the future of the youth generation. So we're protecting that future development, we're helping to safeguard that, help them get back into play, but also helping them get back into normal life. It's gentle, it's drug-free, it's non-invasive. So and with neurofeedback, it's resilience training. We're creating that resiliency, that self-awareness, so they actually become more aware and they're able to respond and think about things before they respond. So they're responding appropriately. And we want to really bring in the complete brain health. So again, like I mentioned earlier, is that metabolic support. It's that lifestyle support. We still need the proper amount of DHA to be able to support the, brain cells regenerating themselves. And there's other aspects that we want to be able to decrease neuroinflammation in a brain. So we combine that together, at Hippocampus Labs with neurofeedback support and supplementation and lifestyle recommendations to give you the best opportunity for success.
All right, this is a good one. This is my wheelhouse here about the racing. Um, we had I set up a racing simulator in my office. An IndyCar medical team, or the Dr. Olvey and Dr. Trammell. Those are the IndyCar medical directors. They asked me if I could do a study on them with the concussions and does our peak performance protocols actually work? I mean, do they make the drivers faster? Do they get the static out of their brain so they can, concentrate a lot better? And I said, well, yes, let's find out. So, um, a lot of professional race teams over in Europe use this. Like Lewis Hamilton's a seven-time Formula One world champion. Neurofeedback is part of his mental training routine, is what he said. It keeps the brain sharp and focused, and you need good hand-eye coordination and really quick. When the world's traveling by at 230 miles an hour, you got to be on your game because one little slip up, you're off you get off your line and you're in trouble. Yeah, there's a 40% reduction in cognitive drift. I think it's a higher than that, but um, you can go to the next slide there, I think.
Yeah, let me see if I could play this.
Yeah, so this guy here, he's getting a peak performance training session. That's the brain map and everything we look at. There's a simulator. That's an F2 driver from Europe that came over from France to do the study to see what it's actually doing. You can see the sensors on his head there. So the way this worked was I had drivers from go-karts, IndyCar, NASCAR, dirt track, everything you name it, because everyone's different, has different brain areas they got to work on. Um, the way it worked is I had them drive 30 minutes on the track they're most familiar with that they won't crash on. And then they stayed in the seat on the simulator and they had the cap on. And I said, okay, now I'm doing my peak performance protocol for 30 minutes. Close your eyes and just relax. And then I said, go back out there and do another 30 minutes. All their times improved, all of them. And I asked them how they felt after they went through the training. And they said, I felt more confident in the car. I braked later into the corner and accelerated quicker getting out. And I felt more comfortable and at ease. So our protocol cleared out the static, elevated the alpha waves, and got rid of all the stuff that he didn't need for when he's racing out there. So it was really an excellent study. So we got a ton of data on that one.
Very cool.
And there's a study, I think, in Denmark. I think that's the one you were asking about, where this is good for golfers. They really have to be on their game, because one missed putt, you can't get back in the game, right? You're mentally out of it. So we have to, get the frontal alpha suppression. Um, if you got that, that's a problem. Elevated anterior beta, you're overthinking, more rigid. You have to clear these out and balance those, which you can do with the neurofeedback. Bryson DeChambeau, his PGA, he crushes that ball when he tees up. He says when his heart rate goes up, he was able to control it and get it back down. That means he can state shift from getting stressed, here comes anxiety, to now calm it down to get in the zone where you have to be. So it doesn't bother you as much. So that's what it's good for putting game, and it's good for performance anxiety, like getting rid of that, to get all the static out of your brain. I mean, Kirk Cousins, he's a NFL football player. He's been using neurofeedback for a long time. He does it before a game, he does it after a game. And again, the key here is if you can see it and you can measure, you can change it. And if you can see how his brain is before a game and then after a game, that's the perfect time to use all this. But you get sustained focus, emotional regulation, and stress mitigation, and your hand-eye coordination is improved. And they said that what's Peyton Manning, he was like, he's got to be on some growth hormone. He's throwing like a young kid, and his targets are always on target. But he was actually doing neurofeedback his whole career. He was one of them also. So it definitely helps athletes and pro athletes. Oh yeah. Um, so if you can do this one
Yeah,
here.
so they want, Kirk Cousins, Peyton Manning, you talking about, we're talking about peak performance, being at the top of your game. But, this reference really is for concussion recovery. This player, Dave Studdard, he was a former NFL lineman for the Broncos. And they did this with, a dozen retired Denver Broncos players, decade-old concussion symptoms. Many experienced significant improvements, some reporting dramatic recoveries from memory deficits, depression, and mood swings. So Dave Stutter's quote there was, it was kind of like night and day. The light came back on, clarity just everywhere. They've given me back my life that NFL took away from me.
That's powerful.
Um, so yes, it's powerful. Like in that, and just think about that for how many people deal with concussions that are under the radar, or they have a mild concussion, or how many youth athletes get concussions that never actually get addressed with neurofeedback, but they get cleared to go back in the game. So there's going to be ongoing things that are going to be symptoms. It says decade-old symptoms addressed. This is not something that goes away because once that injury's there, and the brain has learned, to adapt to that situation of that concussion, the brain waves change. And, with the damage that was done, the brain waves stay in that regard without any support to help train them back. So Dr. Kevin calls it, scrubbing the concussion away. For able to remove that electrical signature that was creating that static and that noise and problems of symptoms that they were experiencing long after the inflammation reduced. There's another, we can go in a deeper level. There may be antibodies that are, still, occurring with the, concussions. They still need that metabolic support. They still need neuroinflammatory support. They still need the DHA. But these specific, players, had major results with just neurofeedback of erasing some of the stuff they've been dealing with for years. It's very powerful. And there's another case study of MMA, controlling the fight before the starts, being able to be in that ready state, that emotional volatility that occurs when you get punched in the face. One of the best one of the best lines I've ever heard. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. By Mike Tyson. Um, that the ability for neurofeedback to help with that stress resilience, to be able to snap back into focus, um, to be able to have that control and composure under extreme stress, when you're getting choked out. So that's not something that I'm going to do and put myself under a study for specifically. But yeah, it's had some major impacts across all sorts of sports. Really is what, I think the picture we're trying to paint here is it doesn't matter the sport. We're able to elevate and able to support that athlete be at the best that they can be.
You go ahead.
So the mechanism of action. So there's three main biological mechanisms that, these pathways are essential for you to understand, and for coaches to understand when they're working with an individual and athlete, to know that there's prime time to actually be working together with neurofeedback as a coach or as a healthcare practitioner that's guiding them mentally to be more in their game. So neuroplasticity, neurofeedback is increasing neuroplasticity. We're continuously reinforcing the optimal brainwave states because the brainwaves are out of sync. We're able to measure the brainwaves of that individual in real time, and measure it against a normative database, and then we're able to train it back into where the normative range is. So we're doing that, but what if somebody has anxiety or they have depression or if they have focus issues? If we're helping with increasing neuroplasticity in, with the brain, that's the best time for that player to be going through coaching sessions. That's the best time for that player to be getting guidance to learn new skills. So neuroplasticity is major in that. Operant conditioning, recognizing the flow state through reward feedback. And that's really, how neurofeedback works. It's through the reward mechanism. That tone actually provides, where Dr. Kevin mentioned, you put on the headset and we use auditory neurofeedback is what Hippocampus Labs does generally. And that response provides a very small dopamine response in the brain. So over time, the brain waves start to train, they get into in the reward mechanism, and it actually happens within 3 to 4 minutes, of each session. You're able to see those brain waves go into the normal range because that dopamine response that's, ever so slight, is able to train that brainwave very quickly. And cortical limbic modulation, prefrontal training strengthens top-down regulation of the limbic system, improving emotional control and reducing reactive stress-driven performance under stress. Um, Hold on one second. I got a question that came in. Um, all right. So the body's reset system, autonomic integration. So neurofeedback doesn't operate in the brain isolation. Like as I mentioned, it's a bidirectional pathway. The metabolic system is supporting the brain is supporting the metabolic system. So we're able to make a response. And if you haven't seen our previous webinars, in HRV, we can send you that heart, brain connection, vagal tone. So these are standard markers for autonomic health and resilience. We're able to actually impact those significantly. We're able to calm sympathetic dominance and, able to control the sympathetic system, autonomic nervous system to be able to respond appropriately. And when I say that respond appropriately, it doesn't really go into depth of what that really means. But if we're able to respond appropriately, if we're not overreacting to something, that means we're having reduced cortisol response. We're having reduced other hormone responses that are unnecessary. The more we're able to bring those hormones down in the body, then the more resilient we're able to become. The more we're able to actually restore what may be a cortical resistant cell. If we're able to reduce that stress over time, we're able to reset that system. We're able to reset, the response, the feedback loop. Also, the endocannabinoid system tone, rhythm regulation, promoting natural recovery mechanisms. So, there's a lot of references that we'll provide you as well. Again, if you are watching this recording, please just make sure you ask for those references and we'll follow up with that after the fact, and we'll send you an email. So these are just four studies that we just selected to show you here, but it's not an emerging hypothesis. It's a clinically substantiated method with over 2 decades of peer-reviewed validation across cognitive performance, reaction time, recovery, sports-specific outcomes. There's more research than the past 2 decades. There's been a lot of research over the past 2 decades. There's actually been research since the 50s and before that. It's just less quantity of it. So protocol development at Hippocampus Labs, that's our foundation. That's what we provide is we provide you clinical success from day one. With Dr. Kevin Butterfield and our neuroscience team, over 10,000 brain maps we reviewed. So it's a massive data set that we've gone through over all of his experience and our team's experience. 100% custom protocols, so no templates. So we don't just take an athlete and use that brain map and provide you just a simple training that we kind of saw those performance protocols. We can get results with those, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we focus on what is specifically going on with that individual athlete's brain. So we can actually get the best results possible. That's just going to be beyond just the game time. It's going to be more for the game time plus their long-term health and wellness, and multiple disciplines. Like I said, this applies to any sport, to any athlete, to really any individual. But for today's purposes, we're optimizing sports to be able to be at our best, on the field or on the pitch, as they say, or on the court, or on the rink. There's a lot of different ones that they could be. So integration pathways. So whether you're an independent sports medicine provider or you're a professional team organization, we are working with teams that we can provide you a clear pathway of how to use QEEG and neurofeedback within your existing structure. For providers and clinicians, the QEEG performance assessment, really that having that baseline is so powerful to be able to make changes with your patients and their families, to be able to get the most data possible on what's going on with their brain. And most of the time, when you do the brain map and you show them the areas of the brain that they're being affected with, depending on how bad things are with them, they're like, that's just like you knew all the things that I'm dealing with that I haven't said to you. So we blend neurofeedback into both sports chiropractic, physical therapy, any rehabilitation workflow. If you're just a team or a coach, so we provide that objective baseline. We have practitioners that we can also refer, depending on where your sports team is, to help you with that, readiness profile to support your training cycle. So we can help you with reducing burnout, to help with, longitudinal recovery and cognitive load tracking and mental conditioning. So that's integrated as a core pillar that we want to have integrated into all sports organizations. Is there's this physical support and strength training that is provided, and they're professional athletes. Obviously, they're training on a daily basis, but most of them, especially in youth sports or in that semi-pro level or collegiate level, they're not doing anything for daily brain training or weekly brain training, and they're not doing support mechanisms to actually make sure that they're at their best, making the best decisions on the field and off the field. Because remember, this is the human dimension. We're not just training an athlete to be the best athlete that they can be. We're training a human to be the best human that they can be. So when they're off the field, they're going to make better decisions. They're going to get better grades. They're gonna have better relationships. They're gonna have better stress response when challenges arise, because we obviously don't live in a bubble. We live in a very stressful world. So this is really making a major impact for the individuals that you're able to touch and support. So we have packages and invitation support. So we have tiers to help, whether you're, athlete programs, whole team or a whole organization, multiple teams. So we can help support you as a practitioner to work with these teams as well, to develop these individual protocol implementation programs. Or if you're a team that's looking for, a practitioner with neurofeedback, we can help guide you with the best solution that is available out there on the market. So, elite athletes train their muscles, champions train their minds. On your way to the top, don't forget to take your brain with you. I think that's a quote by Dr. Kevin.
Yes, it is. That's a
Yes, it
good one.
is.
I threw that in there.
That's right. That's the man.
Yeah.
So it's the edge, the neural edge, the measurable, and it's trainable. As Dr. Kevin mentions, if you can measure it, you can train it, you can change it. Your athletes deserve every advantage available, and the most powerful one is already inside them. So there's a phone number there, 833-722-7662. You can text us now, or you can text us whenever you want, but texting us now will help get you on the schedule for us to be able to have a conversation. We can do a demonstration. We can get into more details about your specific needs, and your desires to be able to implement this, or questions that you have about specific patients. I just got another referral from an acupuncturist down the street that, had the power of neurofeedback impact his daughter, and already getting referrals because now he knows that we're doing that at my wellness center. So there's a lot of ways that we can help you with grow and impact as many as possible in your area. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So now, if you joined late, I didn't get to reiterate it, but if you have any questions, there's a Q&A button. You can put some questions directly in chat, but we're here to help you really just find the best solution that's for you and your patients and your community to get the best brain support that's available out there. Data backed, field tested, and performance first. Right, Dr. Kevin?
Exactly.
That's
Well
right.
put.
All right. Thank you very
Excellent
much.
job.
So, so yeah, I appreciate everybody joining tonight. If there's questions, we may have some texts that are coming through now. Okay, so I will reach out to you after this webinar, and we will schedule a time for us to talk about how neurofeedback can be specifically supported in your office. But without any direct questions other than texts that are coming through for scheduling, I'm gonna stop my share, and I think we'll call it a night. All right, thank you all for joining. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Dr. Butterfield.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right,
Seth, you did
have a great
great.
one.
I'll talk to
Take
you.
care.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.